students, I'm Aanchal Sharma, your educator. In this video today, we are going to solve the question paper of UGC NET Paper 2 English Literature. This is the shift 1 that I have in front of you, and this is the part 1 of the analysis that we are going to do. So in the course of this lecture, in the course of this video, we are going to analyze December 2022 paper of English Literature Paper 2. Then in this further video, we will discuss the questions. I will first of all show you the question, then I'll provide you with the answer, and then we are going to discuss the answer as well, and something related to that answer I will also provide. So during the video, you can take screenshots of the explanation if you want, and we'll be discussing the answers. Right. Now, before starting, one thing that I want to tell you is how to approach the questions. Yes, of course, you will find the right answers from here, but we tend to say that the questions are not repeated. Yes, that's somewhat true. The direct questions are not repeated. You will not find the same questions being repeated in the exam, but they can twist the questions. So right in front of you, say this is the first question that I have. There are 4 options. Only one would be the correct answer, right? But there are other 3 options as well. So what do I want? I want you to mark, also study about the other 3 topics or the other 3 options that are there in front of you, right? This will make your study very comprehensive and a holistic approach can be taken, right? This is going to help you further. Now let us jump into the video and let us solve the paper together. So this is the first question. This is a line that is right in front of you, and it is taken from one of the poem given below. So the line is, when nature prompted and no law denied promiscuous use of combine and bright, when Israel's monarch after heaven's own heart his rigorous warmth did variously impart to wives and slaves. So these are the lines that are taken from one of the poem. What is the right answer? Is it taken from Absalom and Achitophel poem? Is it taken from MacFlecknoe, or from a song from St. Cecilia's Day, or from Alexander's feast? So which is the right answer? Let us see the answer. The right answer is A. That means the poem is taken from Absalom and Achitophel. This is a poem that is written by John Dryden. Right? So the poem mocks the king's opponents and openly reveals Dryden's staunch belief and the strong sympathies that were royalist in nature. The poem is also notable for its feature that it is a heroic couplet. So Absalom and Achitophel basically is a poem that is a heroic couplet, and of course it's a mock epic as well, because what is Dryden doing in this poem? The Dryden is trying to criticize the other political scenarios that is going at that point of time, right? Now, what is your homework? What I want you to do, we all know that there are few characters like David, Absalom and Achitophel in this poem, and he is personifying these characteristics. For example, Charles II is what? The David that we have in the poem is Charles II. So as we all know that this is a poem that is telling the story of these 2 friends, Absalom and Achitophel, and how Achitophel is trying to woo Absalom and trying to make him rebel against his own father, that is David. And David is what? He's personifying Charles II. Now what you have to do in the comment section, you have to tell me which is the person for whom Absalom is representing which person, and which person is Achitophel representing, right? This way, when you will study, you will understand the things better. Also, you have to tell me the publishing date of what? The poem that is Absalom and Achitophel, right? Let us move further. Which of the following poems is written by Oliver Goldsmith? A deserted village, or we have a deserted villa, the deserted village, a deserted city. So what is the right answer? The right answer is C. That means the deserted village is the right answer. It is the poem that is written by Oliver Goldsmith, an Anglo-Irish poet. So the deserted village is a poem by Oliver Goldsmith that was published when? It was published in 1770. Now I want you to quickly remember all of these dates and write it down in whatever notepad or pen and paper that you have, because all of these dates are important, and they again and again ask questions that are related to the chronological order or related to the dates. So now we see NTA asking a lot of questions like this. So you have to be prepared. Any point of time they can ask you to chronologically set few poems, and this poem can be one. So the poem The Deserted Village is a poem by Oliver Goldsmith, published in 1770. It is a work of social commentary, and it condemns the rural depopulation and the pursuit of excess wealth. So what is this poem talking about? This poem is talking about the pursuit of excess wealth and how people are losing their own essence, how village is now getting less and less importance, and how we see that it is the city life that is most important. The poem is also written in the heroic couplet. This becomes important, and it describes the decline of the village and the immigration of many of its residents to the America, right? This poem also criticizes the depopulation that we see. Then it also tries to focus, and again, then we say can criticize the consumerism, the enclosure, or the landscapes, or the other pursuit of wealth and the environment that was going at that point of time in the 18th and the 19th century, right? Then another question that is right in front of you is The Tribute to Papa is a book of poems written by whom? Kamla Das, Mamta Kelia, or is it Suniti Namjoshi, or is it Meena Alexander? So this book known as The Tribute to Papa is written by whom? So how do you approach this kind of a question? Now we see that they are asking a lot of questions from Indian literature and unknown writers that were not that prominent, I must say. They are targeting on those writers as well to make the paper more comprehensive and to raise the bar as well. And we were, of course, focusing less on the Indian literature and more on the British. So one advice that you can take is that you have to study the unknown writers of Indian literature also, and we need to focus on it. Right now, we all are very clear that the poem or the book collection is definitely not of Kamla Das and not of Meena Alexander, because these are the two poets that we study in greater detail. Now, the remaining two, we are confused. Now, we should know, but if we don't, right now, I will tell you the other poems and which is the writer who has written The Tribute to Papa as well. So, the answer is B. That means Mamta Kelia is the person who wrote the book The Tribute to Papa. Now, let us know more about Mamta Kelia. Mamta Kelia, born on the 2nd November in 1940, is an Indian author. She is a teacher and a poet, writing primarily in the Hindu language. She won the Vyas Samman, one of India's richest literary awards, in which period she received it in 2017 for her novel Dukham Sukham. So you should remember this novel. They can also ask you about something about this novel. Dukham Sukham, in English you will call it Sadness and Happiness. So Tribute to Papa by Mamta Kelia is a challenging poem in which Mamta tries to compel the readers to understand the hardships of being a woman that the society wants her to be. What is the poem about? The poem is pertaining to the issues of the women that are facing problems during the time that we live in. There are so many problems because they are what? They are designed and they are conditioned and they are made and they are forced to live and live a life that others want them to live, right? So they are forced to live a life that other people like men want them to live. So she is writing this poem to rebel against the problems that she is facing. She is compelling the readers to look at the plight and understand the hardship of being a woman. In this poem, she portrays the men dominance over the women and all the matters of the life. How she is the submissive one, right? Now let us move forward. Which of the following poems is not written by Sylvia Plath? So in these type of questions, you should be very clear that is the word not written or not, because just a simple error can cause a lot of problem. So Lady Lazarus, Ariel, Daddy, and To Ariel are the options right in front of you. Now you have to tell me which of these poems is not written by Sylvia Plath. So the answer is D. That means To Ariel is not written by Sylvia Plath. Now let us see. So Sylvia Plath was an American poet. She was also a novelist and a short story writer. She's credited with advancing the genre of confessional poetry. So what do you mean by confessional poetry? What is this genre of confessional poetry? This is a kind of poetry. In this poetry, what the writer used to do, they used to confess their own emotions, right? So Kamla Das, Kamla Markandeya, or Kamla Das being very important, and of course Sylvia Plath, these are the two writers that wrote in greater detail about their own hardships and about their own life as well. So what was Sylvia Plath doing? Sylvia Plath was she had a very traumatic life and she wanted to commit suicide. It was very hard for her to live, and she again and again tried to commit suicide as well. So this was basically the condition that Sylvia Plath was living in. She just wanted to end her life, and she decided to write the poems about this topic only, about how she was feeling the need to end her life. Same, Kamla Das used to write something related to this only. She used to write the hardships of being a woman, because she was facing so many hardships after the marriage life as well, and how important it is for a woman to just talk about her emotions. She told us, right? Then in the poem, the introduction, she actually decided to write about how important it is to write, right? There were critics who were saying that why is she writing in a different language like English? Because she is a poet, because she's a poet, she should write in Hindi language. She's an Indian poet, right? But she said that whichever language I opt, it is my essence to write, and I will write, right? So it is the pen that will speak for me. All of these things are told by these two poets, hence they are confessing their own feelings. So this genre is called as the confessional poetry. So there are other published collections also that are important, like the 𝐶𝐬 and the other poems that was published in 1960, and this is Ariel, and it is not two Ariels, so don't get yourself confused. Ariel that was published in 1965. Another semi-autobiographical work is very famous of Sylvia Plath, and it is called as The Bell Jar. The Bell Jar is a semi-autobiographical novel that was published shortly before her suicide. It was published in 1963. So the collected poems was also published in 1981, which included previously unfinished work of Sylvia Plath, and then this collection of poems, that is the collected poems, later received the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry in 1982, making her the fourth person to receive this honor posthumously. Now, what is posthumously? The work that was published, or that work that became that was published after the death of a given person, right? So this was posthumously, right? So these are few dates that you should remember. You should know that the 𝐶𝐬 and the other poems was published in 1960, Ariel in 1965, the Bell Jar, and then we have the collected poems that was published in 1981. And when was the year, in which year she received the Pulitzer Prize? It was 1982. There are some other poems that you can also know. The first is Ariel, Daddy, the Munich Mannequins, Tulips, Two Lovers and a Beachcomber by the Real Sea. There is Lady Lazarus, Inui. There is the Mad Girl's Love Song, and there is the Applicant, right? So these are few important poems that you should know. These are some prose and some poetry collections as well that she has written, right? Then we have Robert Burns. The question, Robert Burns was born in Scotland, England, Ireland, or in America? So this was a very easy question, and we all know the answer to this question is A. Robert Burns was born in what? He was born in which place? He was born in Scotland. So Robert Burns, also familiarly known as the Rabbi Burns, was a Scottish poet. He was a Scottish poet and a lyricist as well. He is widely regarded as the national poet of Scotland and is celebrated worldwide. As well as making original composition, Burns also collected some of the folk songs across Scotland, and these folk songs are very important. Often revising and adapting them, he kept on working on these songs. Hence, he received this title of the national poet of Scotland, right? There his poems like the Lord Lang Syne and is often sung in the Hogmanay. And what is Hogmanay? And this is the last day of the year. There is Scots Wha Ho that received a long time of, a long time appreciation, and it is also called as the unofficial national anthem of the country. There are some other songs and poems of Burns that are very important, and they are PYQs as well. They also asked in the previous sessions that which is the poem or which is the poet who wrote A Red, Red Rose. So the answer was Robert Burns. So you should know Robert Burns has written other poems like A Red, Red Rose, A Man's a Man for a That, and To a Louse, To a Mouse, The Battle of a Seymour, and Tam O'Shanter, and E Fond Kiss. Right? So these are few other poems and songs that Robert Burns has written. Now this is another question. Who among the following characters personifies necessity in P.B. Shelley's Prometheus Unbound? So which character is personified as the figure necessity in the work of P.B. Shelley, Prometheus Unbound? Is it Prometheus himself? Is it De Morgan? Is it Jove? Or is it Zeus? So which is the person who personifies necessity? So the answer is B. That is, Demigorgon is the person who personifies the figure of necessity. Now, what is this work? This work, Prometheus Unbound, is a 4-act lyrical drama that is written by P.B. Shelley, published when Prometheus Unbound was published in 1820, right? This is concerned with the torments of the Greek mythological figure. Which is this figure? It talks about this huge allegorical figure of Prometheus who defies the god and gives the fire to the humanity. So what was the crime that Prometheus did? Prometheus gave the fire to the humanity in spite of God telling him not to do that. Just like Eve, consumed the fruit. He did what? He gave the fire and he defied the God's order, for which he was subjected to the eternal punishment and suffering by the hand of Zeus the god, right? This work is inspired by the classical Promethea, a trilogy of the plays that was attributed to whom? It is attributed to Aeschylus. Right? Now, what to gain? You know that Prometheus is the protagonist. He defies God. The work is published in 1820 and it is a lyrical drama. So, what is happening? It is a demigorgon who, according to Shelley, is necessity, and he overthrows Jove later on and eventually releases Prometheus, who already been represented as the face of mankind. So, what is Prometheus showing? Prometheus is the face of mankind. We do some blunders, we learn from our mistakes. And what is Jove's and what is Zeus? Zeus is the god here. He overthrows Prometheus because he committed a sin. And what is the person who is, and which is the person who is representing necessity? It is Demigorgon, right? Now let us move forward. Who among the following, after watching the performance of William Shakespeare's play A Midsummer Night's Dream, observed that this is the most insipid, ridiculous play that I ever saw in my life? These lines are told by one of these figures, and he said that the play, A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare, is an insipid play, and this is the most ridiculous play that I have ever seen. Is it John Elwyn? Is it Samuel Pepys? Is it John Dryden? Or is it Robert Greene? Now, some of you can think that it is Robert Greene because he did criticize Shakespeare as an upstart crow, but the right answer is Samuel Pepys. That means B becomes the right answer. In 1662, the diarist, a very famous Samuel Pepys, saw 2 plays by William Shakespeare. These 2 plays were performed in London, one being Romeo and Juliet and the second being A Midsummer Night's Dream. So when he saw Romeo and Juliet, he wrote that it is the play of itself the worst that ever I heard in my life and the worst acted ever I saw these people do. These are the few lines that he told about the play Romeo and Juliet. Now, what did he say about Midsummer Night's Dream? That was the question. He said that it was the most insipid and the ridiculous play that he has ever seen. So, what you have to remember you should know that there are two plays about which he made fun of. The first is Romeo and Juliet, and the second is what the question was. That means it was the Midsummer Night's Dream, and they can still ask this question further. Maybe the next time they'll ask about Romeo and Juliet. Another question, name the playwright who wrote the play 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶 or the Silent Woman. Now, what you have to gain from this, you should know the full titles of the play and also the subtitles as well. They keep on asking these type of questions. These are the few options that are right in front of you. This is William Congreve. William Congreve wrote the play 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶. Was it Thomas Kidd? Was it Ben Jonson? Or was it Thomas Farooq? So who is the person who wrote this play? Who is the playwright? So we all know the answer to this question is B, that is Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson wrote this play 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶 or the Silent Woman, also known as 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶. And this is a play which is also called as a comedy. And this comedy is written by this Renaissance playwright Ben Jonson. The play is about the man named Dauphin who creates this scheme to get his inheritance money from his uncle Morose, right? So the plan involves setting Morose to marry this person called as 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶. He was a boy but dressed as a girl, a boy disguised as a woman. It was originally performed. So this play 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶, some extra information, was performed by the Blackfriars children, or the Children of the Queen reveals. These are the group of boy players who performed the play first in 1609. This also excluded the other two prologues that were written for this play. The first performed 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐶 was Jonson's Admission, actually a failure. It was a failure. Years later, however, it was John Dryden and other who championed it, and they reenacted it. And again, it was Samuel Pepys who refers to it as being performed in July 16, 1660, and it places among the first plays legally performed after Charles II's restoration, right? So there's some background attached to this play, which I thought you should know, right? Another question, choose from the following options correct combinations of the plays which made significant use of the expressionistic technique. So this expressionistic technique is a technique that was in boom when it came, then the postmodernism and the modernism came. These were the techniques that pertain a lot to the emotions. They started to talk about the emotions and how we are deteriorating as a human being per se. So what is the right answer, which is the combination of the play that uses the technique of expressionism? The right answer is D. That means the Hairy Ape, the Emperor Jones, the Rapid Transit, and the Adding Machine are the plays that use the technique of expressionism. The Hairy Ape is a 1922 expressionist play by Eugene O'Neill. Emperor Jones is a 1920 tragic play, again written by Eugene O'Neill, that tells the tale of Brutus Jones, right? The Emperor Jones tells the tale of Brutus Jones, a resourceful, self-assured African-American and a former Pullman porter, right? This is the story pertaining to him. Then we have the Rapid Transit as well and the Adding Machine. This play, it was published in 1923 by Elmer Rice, right? So these are the few plays that are related to the American technique of expressionism, that is reflecting the interest of a highly subjective nature, non-realistic persons, and this is related to the modern era. Then we have another question. The theological treatise Ecclesiastical Polity was written by whom? Richard Hakluyt. Was it Francis Bacon, Ralph Hollister, or it was Richard Hooker? So who wrote this treatise? This is a prose work that was written by which of these writers? It is called as the Ecclesiastical Polity. So the right answer is D. It is Richard Hooker, and he was born in 1952, died in 1600. He was an English priest in the Church of England and influential theologian. He was one of the most important English theologians in the 16th century. His defense of the role to redeem the reason informed the theology of the 17th century, right? And he was a pretty famous priest at that point of time. Who wrote the popular instruction manual for fishermen titled The Complete Angler? This complete angler is also called as the Contemplative Man's Reaction. So which is the writer of this work that is a manual for a fisherman? The Complete Angler. So is it Isaac Walton? Is it Jeremy Taylor? Is it Richard Baxter? Or is it Thomas Hobbes? So the right answer is A. That means the complete angler, the spelling sometime in the modernized world, we use it as the complete angler. And this spelling was used in the first edition, is basically a work or a book that is written by Isaac Walton. It is the first work, it was the first time published work in 1652 by Richard Marriott. So he is the one who firstly published it, but later Isaac Walton thought that he need to write and revise more and more editions. So in London, first it was published, but Walton continued to add to it in a quarter of a century, and it is a celebration of the art and the spirit of fishing. It is a work of prose and words, right? So the word angler also would tell you whenever you're trying to catch a fish, you use this angle that is attached with the fishing rod. So with that, you can guess it that this is the work that is talking about the fishes. Written by what? Written by whom? Written by Isaac Walton. This is another question in front of you. What did Matthew Arnold imply by the term Hebraism in the Culture and Anarchy? Is it moral education? Is it intellectual autonomy? Is it rational outlook? Or is it pragmatic attitude? So we all know the right answer is moral education. So Culture and Anarchy is a major work of criticism that is written and it is attributed to none other than Arnold. So according to Arnold, culture is what? Culture is the study of perfection. This one line is repeatedly asked in the exam as well. According to whom do you think that the culture is perfection? So it is Matthew Arnold who in Culture and Anarchy said that culture is nothing but the study of perfection. Culture and Anarchy is a long essay on the social issues and culture. Much more than mere a treatise on a state of education in England, Culture and Anarchy in the worlds of other theorists like J. Dove Wilson said that at once this work is a masterpiece. It's a vicious prose, a great poet's great defense of poetry, a profoundly religious book, and the finest apology of education in the English language. Culture and Anarchy is a series of periodical essays, and in which magazine it was first published? It was first published in the Cornhill magazine in 1867 to 1868. The book was later combined, so these collections were later combined to become a collection of books, and it was published in 1869. There are about 6 chapters in this book, and these are the 6 chapters, like the sweetness and light, and there are questions from where this word sweetness is taken, right? These questions are also asked. So read like an interdisciplinary reader. There is doing as one likes, barbarous, Philistines and populace. There is Hebraism and Hellenism, and so on and so forth. Now, let us read the definition of Hebraism and Hellenism. So, Hebraism is the identification of the usage trait or characteristic of the Hebrew language. By successive extension, it is often applied to the Jewish people and their faith in the national ideology of culture. The word Hebraism defines a quality, a character, nature, or a method of thought or a system of religion about which they are talking. While Hellenism is derived from this Greek word Hellenismos, and in the Greek this word is used to describe the Greek lineage and also to describe the set of values for living that were invented by the ancient Greeks. So this was the core meaning of these two words. Now another important question, and this is important because I found this question to be repeated a lot some way or another. The journal Scrutiny was founded in what? In which year? In 1932 by whom? So two things to learn. The journal Scrutiny that was founded in 1932, you should know it was founded by whom? I.A. Richards, F.R. Lewis, Kenneth Brooks, or is it John Crowe Ramsden? So who is the person who founded this journal that is called as Scrutiny in 1932? So Scrutiny, a quarterly review, that is the full name, is a literary periodical, and it was founded in 1932 by two people together, that is L.C. Knights and F.R. Lewis. And they only remain the principal editor till the time the final issue was seen, and it was in 1953. So from 1932, we find that till 1953, who were the editors? It was F.R. Lewis and L.C. Knights, and they were the editors of this periodical called as the Scrutiny, a quarterly review. Then we have Samuel Pepys' claim to fame rests on his. Why do you feel this person is famous? Is he famous for his biography, autobiography, diary, or a speculative fiction? So we all very well know that Samuel Pepys is very famous for his diary. That means C would be the right answer. Samuel Pepys, who was born on 23rd February in 1633 London, he died in England in May, and he died again in London only on 26th May 1703. He was an English diarist and a naval administrator. And what is he writing? He is writing about the experiences of this naval administrator only. He is celebrated for his diary, which was first published in 1825. So he is famous for his diary that was first published in 1825. This, which actually gives a fascinating picture of the official and the upper class life of the Restoration London. And what all are the time periods? This itself is a PYQ, and they have asked. This time period is 1st Jan 1660, and they are moving till 31st May 1669. Right? So for this was the time period when he was writing his diary, and these were the time period that are covered in his diary. Now, Dr. Primrose is a character in which of the following works that you see right in front of you? Is he a character in Nicholas Nickleby? Is he a character in Adam Bede, a vicar of the Wakefield, or Joseph Andrews? In which work do you find the character Dr. Primrose? So, the right answer is C. He is a very important character, a person whose words and whose dialogues are very important. He is none other than a very good protagonist of the work that is the Vicar of the Wakefield, and this is written by Oliver Goldsmith, and he is an Anglo-Irish writer. So the Vicar of the Wakefield was the first novel that was written by the Anglo-Irish author Oliver Goldsmith. Goldsmith spent most of his life studying medicine, but later he started to compile new works, and also wrote literary reviews, and gradually he wrote some poems and essays, and he was successfully writing this novel that he published, The Vicar of the Wakefield, which was originally published in 2 volumes in 1766, right? And it was a very successful work. So Vicar of the Wakefield follows the misadventures of the family called as Primrose. Hence, this Primrose family loses their fortune and gradually understand how difficult it is to have their fortune back, and if you don't have money, how you have to suffer. So this is basically a social tragedy that he is writing for us. The Vicar of the Wakefield follows the misadventure of the Primrose family, whose loss of wealth is followed immediately by a string of social tragedies. Their ultimate restoration of status and happiness comes about through a series of ironic events that catch the family by surprise. Also prominent in the novel are the lengthy explanations of Dr. Primrose's moral point of views, including the few of his sermons. The novel is considered as an example of a popular 18th century genre, and this genre is called as the sentimental novel. Now, which is another work that is very famous for it? We have the Lawrence work written by Lawrence, right? And this work is again very famous for the sentimental novel. Why? Because now at this point of time in the 18th century, we are talking about what? We are talking about the very old sentiments that we have. We are talking about how important it is to hold on sentiments, because we are losing onto it, right? So this is the genre on these grounds they were writing, and it also is sometimes classified as a work about comedy and satire as well. But basically, it is according to the sentimental novel that he is writing. Okay, now this is a huge para that they have given. And you have to tell that this extract is taken from which novel. So the baby was carried in a small deal box under an ancient woman's shawl to the churchyard that night, and buried at the latrine light, at the cost of the shilling and the pint of beer to the sexton, in that shabby corner of God's allotment, where he lets the nettles grow, and where all the unbaptized infants, notorious drunkards, suicide, and others of the conjecturally damned are laid. So which is the novel that includes these kinds of lines? So is it Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte? Is it Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy? Is it Great Expectations by Charles Dickens? Or is it Mills on the Floss by George Eliot? So again, it is very easy. The answer is the B, and we should study all of these novels that are right in front of you, because till now I've seen so many papers, and in each year, now they tend to ask questions from these novels, and you have to read these novels in greater detail. You need to know 2 to 3 things. The summary should be at your tips. You need to know the name of all the characters. If you know the iconic scenes that are there in the the novel, then you need to know those things as well. Also, you need to know who is the writer, what is the publishing date. So this is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. Then, which of the following novels is written by Patrick White? So, Cry, The Beloved Country, The Vivisector, The Handmaid's Tale, and The Stone Angel. Which of these novels is written by Patrick White? Again, a very important and a very easy question. It is The Vivisector that is written by Patrick White. So, Patrick White, born in 1912, died in 1990, was a British-born Australian writer who published about 12 novels and 3 short story collections and 8 plays from this point of period, that is 1935 till 1987. White's fiction employs a lot of humor, and he used to write about the shifting narrative and fluid prose, and a consciousness and a stream of consciousness technique was used. He also received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1973. There are some works of Patrick White that are important, and I want you to know these works. Happy Valley, note the publishing date as well. Happy Valley, The Living and the Dead, The Aunt's Story, The Tree of Man, Was, The Riders in the Chariot, The Solid Mandala, and The Vivisector. We have The Eye of the Storm, we have The A Fringe of Leaves, The Twin-Born Affair, Memoirs of Many in One, and The Hanging Garden. Now, The Hanging Garden is the unfinished work, and it was published posthumously. Note the year as well. Right? Which among the following is not written by Kamala Markandeya? Which of these novels is not written by her? Note the word not again. Some Inner Fury, The Nowhere Man, A Time to Be Happy, The Golden Honeycomb. Which of these is not written by Kamala Markandeya? The right answer is C. Other works are written by her, but The Time to Be Happy is written by Nayantara Sehgal. So the Some Inner Fury, you will be confused like this. Some Inner Fury, The Nowhere Man, and The Golden Honeycomb are written by Kamala Markandeya, while A Time to Be Happy, it is written by Nayantara Sehgal. So what is this work about? This work is about the Sanad Shivpal, the character Sanad Shivpal, who is a typical product of a public school man, and he is going to face the problem when he is educated in a British manner, but he's coming to India, and this is the time of independence. So this is the whole plot of the play of the novel. So Nayantara Sehgal deals with the problem that is caused by the changing of the order. She presents new philosophy in her novels. This is what she is famous for. So the novel, The Time to Be Happy, is based on the character Sanad Shivpal, who is the son of a very rich man, a typical product of a public school, and an executive in the mercantile firm, and a good tennis player as well. Most of his problems are the problems of a Western educated boy returning to India and encountering in him the conflict that he has between these two set of values. So being educated outside, living in this country, and facing during the time of independence. So this is what? This is the problem that he is facing. The novel offers a more faithful picture of the period of independence and tells about the Gandhian movement during the 40s. So A Time to Be Happy embodies the enthusiasm and the starry-eyed optimism that we had for the Indian independence, right? So this was the work written by Nayantara Sehgal. Now we have another question. Who among the following were revaluing the masses as sources and subjects of literature? Who out of these are talking and revaluing the masses as the source of literature? Hence, these masses are the source of culture for them. Is it Richard Hogarth and Raymond Williams, Penny Summerfield and Gillian Rose? We have Rachel Elsoff and Catherine Belsay, and John Cook and Marilyn Deegan. So we all know the right answer, very easy. It is A. This is the right answer. It is Richard Hogarth and Raymond Williams. Now, quick homework for you. I want at least 2 works of each writer in the comment section. You have to write the works of Richard Hogarth, at least 2, and of Raymond Williams, and do write the dates, because this time they did ask questions that was the work of Raymond Williams and the dates were asked, right? So A is the right answer. Who among the following theorists has written on narrative empathy? So it is Michelle Ryan, or is it Susan Cain, Toni Morrison, or Sara Ahmed? So who is the person who advocated this narrative style, that is the narrative empathy? So it is Michelle Ryan, and this is the right answer. Now another very important and an easy question. The science that systematically studies the function of sign is known as what? We are talking about the function of signs, and this is a scientific study. What is this word? Is it semantics? Is it scriptoria? Is it seismography? Is it semiology? So what is the right answer? We all know it is B. That is the right answer. That is seismology, or it is semiotics, that is the study of science. Who among the following first framed the theory of general hermeneutics? Who is the one who talked about general hermeneutics? A very easy question again. Is it Wilmer Delvey? Is it Fernando de Saussure, Richard, or is it E.D. Hitson? So we all know it is none other than Friedrich, who is the person who is talking about the hermeneutics, and he is widely regarded as the father of the sociological hermeneutics as well. According to him, in order to interpret or to understand the given piece of work, it is important to understand the author and to familiarize with the historical context in which the author published their thoughts, right? So Roland Barthes' Image, Music and Text was published in which of these years? Was it 1968, 1977, 1979 and 1969? So the right answer is B. That means it is 1977. The image, music, text brings together major essays that are written by Roland Barthes on the structural analysis of the narrative and the issues of literary theory on the semiotics of photography and film and music and voice as well. It was originally published in 1977. Who among the following distinguished between the constratives and the performatives? So who is the one who talks about it? And this should be very clear because we keep on asking about performatives. It's a very important term, and it is repeated in the previous papers as well. So you should be clear with this question. Is it John Austen? Is it Judith Butler, Stanley Fish, or is it Mary Louise Path? So with just looking at the answers, options, I think you should be clear with it, because Judith Butler, being a feminist writer, won't write about it. Stanley Fish is also not associated with this genre. So what should be the correct answer? It should be A, that is John Austen should be the correct person who started to talk about it, right? So Austen claims that there are some sentences, and so there are some sentences according to Austen that will tell you what is right and what is wrong, while there are some sentences that you won't even feel the need of knowing what is right and wrong, but these actions will just similarly and will gradually perform the act, right? So take this example. So snow is white. You know that these are the words that are the constratives. You know, it would be true or it would be false. You have to understand it. It's like a sentences. It's like a declarative sentence. It can be a declarative or it cannot be a declarative sentence, right? So it is snow is white. It's true. Snow is red. You know it is false, right? So this is just a sentence that you will go further and analyze. But there are other performatives according to Austen as well. And according to him, these performatives are the declarative sentences which the speakers perform by just saying, right? So you don't have to say and go further to analyze things. By just the act of saying, you are performing these things. Take this example. By just uttering, the speaker is actually making an apology. Read this sentence: I apologize for my behavior. Now, when you say this line is a performative line in nature. You are not thinking what is right and what is wrong. Just by the act of saying, they do not describe or report anything. They just perform the act. So this is performative, and it is John Austen who talked about it. Then who among the following coined the phrase soft capitalism? So is it Louis Althusser? Is it Shelvock Zizek? Is it Nigel Threfe? Or is it Terry Walton? So it is Nigel Threfe who talked about the phenomena soft capitalism, a form of capitalism animated by the intense and widespread circulation of the theories of capitalism. Then to whom is the word or the term thick description attributed to? John Story, Clifford Geertz, and is it Lewis and Guthrie, or is it James Clifford? So who is the one who keeps on talking about this word called as the thick description? So we all are clear. This is Clifford Geertz who talk about this word called as the thick description. So first of all, what is thick description and who started with this word? So it was not Clifford who started with using this word. It was Gilbert Ryle who started to use this word. So he was a 20th century philosopher, and during this time only he introduced the term, but it was made popular by none other than Clifford Geertz. So however, the predominance in the sense that we use it today is attributed to the anthropologist Clifford Geertz. In his book, The Interpretation of the Cultures, that was published in 1973. He actually characterizes his own method of doing ethnography there. Thick description emphasized to a more analytical approach, whereas it was previously just approached as a word, but now he gave it a new meaning. To Geertz, actually separated observation from interpretive methodology is none other than a thick description. So to simplify all of these things, what is he saying? whenever you're describing something, whenever you are saying something, you are not only saying it just for the sake of saying, you're saying it to explain the things as well. You are saying it to establish the code, and analysis is meant to pick out of the critical structure and it will establish the codes. This analysis begins to distinguish an individual's present and coming to an integrative synthesis that accounts for the actions that are produced, right? So this is what, whatever you are talking, if you are describing it, you are doing it to bring a greater change and not only using it just for the sake of using. This is what Clifford said is thick description. The subject matter of cultural studies as it emerged as a proto-discipline in 1960s was predominantly an exploration of high culture, popular culture, subaltern studies and contemporary politics. So it is again easy, it is B, that is the popular culture. They are talking about the popular culture when it started. Now, one question that they are repeating again and again, and you should be clear with it. This is the abbreviation CCCS. It stands for what they are asking. So on the basis, on the context related to the cultural studies, CCCS is related to what? What is the right answer? The right answer is C. The full form of CCCS is the Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies. It is the center that was established in the University of Birmingham in England, and this is the center where the two very own Richard Hogarth and Stuart Hall were the founders. It was founded in 1964, and from 1964 till 2002, it played a very critical role in the field of cultural studies. So you have to remember the names and also the year. Then according to Stuart Hall, the concept of dash played a very seminal role in the cultural studies. Is it interpellation? Is it dispositive, hegemony or society? So we again know the right answer is C, that is hegemony. So Hall's work covers a great issues of hegemony, and he talked in greater detail about the cultural studies, and he is using the role and he is basically speaking from a post-Gramscian point of view, from a post-Gramscian stance. He regards language use as operating within a framework of power and institutions and economic classes and politics as well. So according to him, you are using language, but the language will not leave behind politics, economics, institutions and the power struggles that we have. And this view represents the people as producers and the consumers of culture at the same time. And this hegemony that it is Gramsci who started to talk about it, this is always used, and this is how the socio-cultural production is seen, right? Then the book Political Shakespeare, Essay in Cultural Materialism is jointly edited by is it Ghaleuz and Guattari? Is it Alan Sinfield and Jonathan Dollimore? Is it Bill Ashcroft and Helen Taffin? Is it Theodore Adorno or is it Max Horkheimer? So which is the right answer? Again, we all know it is B. That means it is Alan Sinfield and Jonathan Dollimore who edited the book, The Political Shakespeare, Essays in Cultural Materialism. This book is talking about the essays related to cultural materialism. Identify the work which is not authored by the famous cultural critic Raymond Williams. Which out of these is not a work of Raymond Williams? A very easy question again. Is it The Country and the City, Culture and the Society? Is it Modern Tragedy and the Making of the English Working Class? So we all know that it is D, because D is not written by him, but D is written by E.P. Thompson. So the Making of the English Working Class, it's also a PYQ, is a work written by this English social history writer E.P. Thompson, a new left historian. He published this work in 1963. There are some other works that are there in front of you, and these are the works written by Raymond Williams. This is Culture and Society. Note the years as well. The Long Revolution, Communication, Television, Marxism and Literature, Modern Tragedy, the English novel that talks about Dickens till Lawrence, Then we have the country and the city, the problems in materialism and culture, writing in society, border countries and border society, border countries, sorry, in 1960, and keywords. And another question that is right in front of you, a very scoring question again. The second language is what? So we have the first language, or you call it as a mother language, and then we have the second language as well. And the second language can be acquired. This is what? This is the second language acquisition that we call. How do you acquire the second language? How do you learn this second language? And what is this second language? Is this the language, the language second in the importance in terms of the language that you use? Or is it the language used by the second generation learner? Is it any language other than the learner's native language or the mother tongue? The language which is the learner's native language, not at the mother, but not the mother tongue. So what would be the right answer? It would be C, and it is very easy. Any language that is other than the learner's native language and which is not the mother language as well, you have to acquire that language. That language is called as the second language. When the learner's second language learning system seems to freeze or get stuck at some point or more or less in a deviant stage, the phenomena is known as freezer, fossilization, language learning blockage, or language scaffolding. So what is this word that you use when the learner's second language seems to freeze? So this is the word called as fossilization. When you are short of the other vocabulary that you have for your second language acquisition or the second language that you are learning, you call this phenomena as fossilization. So as I told you, you are learning that language. But at some point of time, either you will have a writer, you will have a blockage or too many bombarding of facts, or you will tend to forget the words as well, or you will not be able to retain it or understand it. That phenomena is called as fossilization. So fossilization refers to the process in which the incorrect language becomes a habit and cannot easily be corrected. Because it's a second language, you are not able to correct it. Integrative motivation refers to what? Is it language learning for immediate goals, language learning for practical goals, language learning for practical growth and cultural enrichment, or none of these? So the right answer is C. That means it is language learning for practical growth and cultural enrichment. In 1835, which of the following languages was replaced by English as the official language of the East India Company? Is it Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, or Hindi? So we all know that the right answer is B, that is Persian. So the Persian language was replaced by English as the official language for the government in 1835, right? It was Persian that was changed to be English, right? Then choose the correct option from the given below. The Magna Carta of Indian education in the colonial period refers to the missionary clause of 1698. The Magna Carta of the Indian education in the colonial period refers to the Indian Education Commission in 1882. The Magna Carta in the Indian education in the colonial period refers to Macaulay's Minute in 1835, and the Magna Carta of the Indian education in the colonial period refers to the Wood's Education Dispatch of 1854, right? So which is this? What is the right answer? And we all know that the right answer is D, that is Wood's Dispatch is also called as the Magna Carta. Now there are two broad reasons why Wood's Dispatch is called as the Magna Carta. The Wood's Dispatch is called as Magna Carta because it was the first time such a huge impactful law was passed in the parliament. Secondly, it was replicating a same incident that happened in England around 1215, right? So these were the few reasons, these two main reasons why Magna Carta was, why the Charles Wood's Dispatch was called as Magna Carta. And what is the year that you have to remember? So this year was 1854. So in 1854, after Macaulay's Minute, which was an activity that was, or a law that disrupted our education system, that was forcing us not to, rely on Britishers, because it was very harsh on us. There came something positive, that was the Magna Carta of the Indian education. Right, it came out in 1854. So Macaulay's Minute, that came out in 1835, was basically talking about the downward filtration theory. And according to our very own Macaulay, he said that we Indians don't need to study Hindi, because Hindi is not doing any good for them. We need to study English only. And he said that downward filtration theory should be followed. Now, what is this downward filtration theory? He said that just educate the classes and just make them Indian in blood, but in rest, everything, they should be converted to English, so that we can use them as an Englishman, and they see the English babus. Why? Because they want to use us in their East India Company as well, and for their official works. And for that, we need to be educated. So he said, just educate the upper classes, and this will trickle down to the lower level as well. And this will educate the other at the smaller level as well. And he was very harsh on us. He said that even one shelf of British books, or their own books, is equivalent to the whole library that we have of our Indian knowledge, Indian books and Indian education. And he replaced whole texts that we were reading in our universities, and he said that we need to only study English, because our texts are promiscuous in nature, and they're not that appealing or good, and not giving any greater good for them. Right? Now let us study something more about Wood's Dispatch. There are some recommendation of Wood's Dispatch. So the aim of the education should be to diffuse art, science, and philosophy of European studies, so that we can be efficient to work according to the Britishers. Then the vernacular and the regional language can be a medium of instruction at the primary stage, but at the later stage, at the higher studies, it would be English that would be used. Then they said that separate departments of education should be established at each province, and the inspector would be the one who will focus on it. And then there will be other universities established, universities in Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. But the model that they will follow would be the model of the University of London. Then there were vocational education, for which they were talking. Vocationalization was something they wanted to promote. Teacher training was something they wanted to promote. And grant in aid schemes for some private colleges and schools was also something they were talking about. They also paid focus for the women folk and some education related to the women. There were some merits and some demerits. So what all are the merits? The merits is that it discarded the downward filtration theory of Macaulay. It gives a separate department for each educational unit or province. Then it promoted private education, women education, teacher training, and it established many more universities. But what was the major drawback? The major drawback was they were blindly following the London model, which because of which a lot of problems occurred, and it was not that successful. Which of the following plays of William Shakespeare was translated in Bengali and directed by Girish Chandra Ghosh? So The Tempest, Hamlet, Macbeth, or King Lear? So the right answer is C, that is Macbeth. Which of the following works of Browning are pure dramas? So Browning, we all know, is famous for his dramatic monologues, and now they are asking which of these works are purely dramas. Strafford, The Last Ride Together, or is it the A Blot in the Scruncheon, or is it Pippa, or The Friar's Lover? So what is the right answer? The right answer is A. That means A and C, Strafford and A Blot in the Scruncheon is the right answer. They are the pure dramas. There are some other works that are written by Browning, like Pauline, like Pericles, Strafford, Sardello, it is The Bell and the Pomegranate, and under which we have these two poems. So we have other poems as well, and he is famous for his dramatic monologue. One tip, read all of these. You cannot just read all of these poems, but read these poems and know about the main character, who is the one who is talking to the people there, who is the one who is delivering the dramatic monologue, because previously they asked about the persona also, right? So Browning becomes an important writer or a poet. Who among the following poets have lived in Australia? Is it Judith Wright? Is it Joseph? And is it Kath Walker? Is it Thomas Kelsella? Or is it T.S. Eliot? So the right answer is B. That means A, B, and C. Judith Wright, Joseph, and Kath Walker are the writers that belong to Australia. Okay. In an essay on criticism, Pope is trying to say what? I'll tell you the correct answer directly. The right answer is A. That means he is saying to analyze the cause of the faulty criticism and praise the great critics of the past, and analyze the causes of the faulty criticism and the characteristics of a good critic. So he is first of all talking about the faulty criticism, then he praises the great critics as well, and then he says that there are some characteristics of a good critic and he discussed upon them as well, right? And when was this work published? This work was published in 1711, right? This work is called as An Essay on Criticism. Then which of the following are the plays written by Harold Pinter? Family Voices, A Moon for the Misbegotten, The Room, No Man's Land, and Krapp's Last Tale. Which of these plays are written by Harold Pinter? So the right answer is C. That means A, C, and D are written by Harold Pinter. A, C, and D are written by Harold Pinter, while this is E for you. And this is not written, this play is not written by Harold Pinter. Let us see. So, A Moon for the Misbegotten is a play of 4 acts, and it is written by the playwright Eugene O'Neill. It is the play which is also having a sequel called as The Long Day's Journey into the Night. Krapp's Last Tale is a 1958 play. It's a 1-act play in English by Samuel Beckett. Then No Man's Land is a play by our very own Harold Pinter. It is written in 1974. Then you have The Family Voices, a radio play written by Harold Pinter, and it was written in 1980. And The Room is also written by Harold Pinter, and it was produced in 1957. Now, which of the following is not written by Mahesh Dhatani? So, is it A Dance Like a Man, Fire and the Rain, On a Muggy Night in Mumbai, A Touch of Brightness, and Bravely Fought the Queen? Which out of these is not written by Mahesh Dhatani? So let us see. It is B. That is the right answer. B. That means B and D are not written by Mahesh Dhatani. The Fire and the Rain and D, that is A Touch of Brightness, is not written by Mahesh Dhatani, while the other plays like The Dance Like a Man, On a Muggy Night in Mumbai, and Bravely Fought the Queen are written by our very own Mahesh Dhatani. Let us read about it. The first play that we have, The Fire and the Rain, is written by the reputed playwright Girish Karnad. The play is based on the myth that we have of these characters that we have. They are called as the Raivya, the Parasuva, the Arsuvu, and the Vyavraktri. And this is describing, and this is also discussed in the mythological text of Mahabharata. The original myth is recreated, and this version is shown to us by the very own Girish Karnad. It is also a play that is also adapted in Bengali. Then A Touch of Brightness, that came out in 1964, is a play that was written by Pratap Sharma. A Touch of Brightness is a play about a love affair and affection that pervades the the climate that is very grim in nature. It is how the love enters in a very traumatic condition. So the interest of the play is centered around this South Indian girl called as Prema, the daughter of a Devdasi. She is compelled to run away from her home in Mysore to Bombay, and then she is later sold in the brothel by a pavement dweller, and he is called as the Banarasiya Babu. So Mahesh Dhatani, the writer who was referred to us in the question, is a playwright who has written a plethora of plays, and all of them being very important. He's an Indian director, he's an actor, he's a playwright, and he's a person who has written many novels. This is many plays. So the few important plays are Final Solution, Dance Like a Man, Bravely Fought the Queen, On a Muggy Night in Mumbai, Tara, 30 Days in September, and The Big Fat City. So these are the few plays that are very important, right? So this is what I had for the today's session. So we have discussed a few questions that were there in your shift 1 of English literature. I hope you understood the approach as well as you understood the questions. In the next video, we'll be discussing the other questions that are there, right? And I hope you like the video. If you have any doubt, you can write it in the comment section. Also, I want you to do the homework that I have asked, that this would make the class more interactive. I'll surely reply to you. If you have any doubt, you can write it in the comment section. Thank you so much.